Hey guys, this is the engine for the Acura Integra, and I thought I'll show you the basic, simple, easy ways to find out if the engine that you bought is good, whether you got it from a junkyard or a scrapyard or ordered it online from a JDM export place. To be exact, this engine is a B18 B1 from a 1996 Acura Integra LS non-VTEC, and all I'm basically doing is just the basic, simple test to know if it's good. Now, this isn't, these tests don't promise you 100% that your motor is good, but it just leans you in the right direction on what it most likely is. So first thing you're gonna always need when you get an engine from a junkyard or scrapyard, or you ordered it, you always want a receipt. And you always want to make sure that the VIN number on the receipt matches the engine that you got. Because if you get pulled over and the cops check your VIN, and your VIN tag's right there, if they check it and it doesn't match with the car, they could take your car and say that they're going to do an investigation to see if it's stolen or not. So you have to make sure you have paperwork for the engine that you bought, so you know you're in safe hands. That's taken care of. Now we're going to crank the engine to see if it cranks. Now when you crank the engine, you normally want to do it when you go buy the engine. If you get it shipped to you, then you really can't do that. But before you buy the engine, if you buy it at a scrapyard or junkyard, you want to crank the engine first and see if it turns. Now we're on the other side of the engine. This is a 19 millimeter for this engine, and this is a 1/2 inch ratchet. So when you crank it, if you're trying to turn it and it does not move at all, like you could put your whole body weight on it and it doesn't move at all, then that means your engine isn't turning and it's most likely junk. Something has to be broken in it if it doesn't move at all. When you're turning it, feel a little bit of pressure, some good pressure, and then you hear a little tss, and then it gets loose, there's no pressure on it anymore, then that means your engine is building up compression. Now you want to keep doing that, and there should be little grooves right here that match up with this line, and that will tell you if it's TDC, top dead center. So you want to keep on turning it, and then right now it's a little hard, even harder, and there's a little husk that comes out. This, you'll hear it, and you get some good feel to it if the spark plugs are still inside the engine. So if you have any spark plugs laying around, put it in there and make sure you turn it. But this is good, it's turning, got some good resistance, and then it gets soft. See, it's really good resistance, then you do it, and then bite. So this engine is leaning to the right direction, that it's most likely good. You could do this before you crank the engine, which obviously will be a lot quicker, easier. But you want to look how clean the engine is. See what they've done to it, if it's really dirty, signs of a blown head gasket, if it's just all water. Another thing you could do if the engine was shipped to your house, see how well they took care of it. See if all these holes are filled so nothing gets in it. Stuff that shows you that they knew that the engine was good and they wanted to protect it anyway. See if it was wrapped, covered with plastic, safe. Next step, you're going to get a little bit more into it. Now, before you buy the engine, you can ask them to take it off, but if they won't let you take it off for some reason, then something's up, because they should obviously let you take off the valve cover. So we're going to take off the valve cover and look at the cams. There's 2 cams. But before you take off the valve cover, this sadly didn't come with a cap, but before, you want to look in the hole, and you want to smell the oil on the cap, see if it smells burnt, anything like that. But to take off this valve cover for the B18, it's 7 10mm bolts, one right here, 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 and then 2 over there. Then we're going to take that off. Just basic hand tools, a 3/8 ratchet, and a 10mm. Now that you got the valve cover off, look at the cams. You want to look at the cams really closely, see if there's any big gouges or how it's worn out. This engine, I think, had 130,000 miles in it, and that's not bad for this year of engine. It was from a 1996 Acura Integra. My Integra is a 1998. Second thing you want to do is look at the side, see if there's any gasket, the RTV gasket that they put on there. That tells you that someone's been in here before. Someone's been in here. So if you look over here, someone's put something there to seal the gasket, so you know someone's already worked on it before. Smell the oil. If it smells too burnt, then that's a possibly overheated, blown head gasket maybe, and they just let it sit there. But for this, the cams look good. That's fine if it's like that. You just want to clean that up, but it looks pretty good. Second thing I like to look at the timing belt. These both point up. That's how you know that they're in the right position. There should be a little groove. See those two little grooves? Those are supposed to face each other, and that tells you that the timing's right. But when those are facing each other, you want to make sure that down here, this is where you crank it, that there's one dash lining up with the cover that goes right here. That tells you that that's TDC down there, and then those two notches tell you right there that that's TDC. So if those two are matching, then that's really good. If this is off by, say this dash is up here and that dash stays there, and that is still the same place, that tells you that your timing's off. So you need to make sure that everything's aligned and perfect, because when you put this in your car and you start it, it could mess up your valves, everything, break a piston. Bad things can happen, and you want to make sure all that's good. But this checks out. The timing belt looks pretty good, just decent wear. That's about it. And then now we're going to check the spark plug. Now we're taking out the spark plugs to check it. This is a 5/8. This is made for taking out spark plugs. I take out the rubber ring around it. That's it right there. That grabs onto it. And after a while, you get tired of putting it in and out, because when you put the spark plug back in, it stays onto this, okay? Because that's inside of it. And when you try to pull it out, the socket stays with it, and it's hard to take that out. So normally I take it out and I use a magnet to take out the spark plug. So now we're gonna loosen it. Cracked it open. I'm gonna take off the ratchet, set it aside, and you want to keep turning it like this. It just makes everything easier so you don't scrape the sides or whatever. And after that, I'm gonna use the magnet to pull out the spark plug. It's in there, it pulls right out. And if you look at it, see how clean that is? That's not the best sign that you always want to see. I'm gonna place it down here so I can pick it up on my hand. Okay, now just look at that closely when you have it. For a running engine that runs perfectly with fuel and all that, this would be black. This would be very black, like really black. But unfortunately they washed the engine, they sprayed the engine down. I don't know why they did that, but that's why this is washed out. A few of them that were tightened in really good, they were mostly black. But the reason why I think they were washed out, because they had the intake manifold and the exhaust manifold off, and they were spraying down the valves. So that could be another reason. And they could have sprayed down the spark plug seals, because the valve cover was off and it had nothing covering the down where the spark plugs are. They sprayed water in there. That I could do right now. If you had an engine stand, you could flip over the engine and pull off the pan and check the bottom of the piston, see if it moves left or right, or if it moves at all. Normally do that. Another thing you do is you drain the oil. There should be a little amount of oil in the engine. They're supposed to drain out the engine at junkyard, the scrap yards, or whatever they do. You want to look at the oil in a clear, something clear under it, so you can look really good into oil, see if there's big scrapes in the metal, big chunks. Check that and you'll know you'll be good. But right now, everything that we checked, everything checks out. Everything looks good. Everything looks fine. The engine's clean. So that makes me feel better about putting the engine in the car. And when you get an engine from scrapyard or junkyard, you want to make sure they have a warranty. So if that engine is bad, you can bring it back. That's why you have to bring the engine in the car right away. And that's it for the video. Please like and subscribe. I hope you learned something from the video, and have a good day.